What if true wisdom isn't found in books or debates, but in the silence of your own soul? And beyond that silence, a level of understanding where the self completely disappears. Some people speak beautifully, they can argue skillfully, explain every concept, and quote from endless books. To the listener, it feels like they stand on a high level of wisdom. Their words sound like they come from a massive database, impressive but lifeless. On the other hand, there are people who rarely speak. They don't look like they know much, yet a single sentence, a glance, or the way they live can silence us completely, like something deep inside has just been awakened. That's why true wisdom cannot be measured by how much knowledge someone collects. Real wisdom is measured by the depth of life within them. In an age overflowing with information, the difference between knowing and seeing becomes more important than ever. Knowing is accumulation, seeing is awakening. Knowing can be copied, seeing cannot be transferred. Knowing belongs to the head, seeing belongs to an awakened consciousness. And right there, that's where wisdom truly begins. This explains why some people spend their entire lives learning, yet remain trapped in confusion, while others, who may never touch a philosophy book, live with deep understanding and compassion. The answer lies in the very nature of wisdom, which unfolds in stages. In today's video, Eternal Wisdom invites you to explore the 5 stages of wisdom. This isn't a theory, nor a ranking. It's a map to help you locate yourself on the inner journey, not to give you something else to memorize, but to notice, at this very moment, which stage of wisdom is listening within you. The first stage is borrowed wisdom, the starting point for almost all of us. At this stage, human understanding is built entirely on what others have said, written, or taught. Knowledge here doesn't come from real, lived experience. It comes from repeating, memorizing, and copying. It's like a mirror reflecting someone else's light without ever shining its own. People in this stage are easily persuaded by ideas that sound right, especially when spoken by someone famous or quoted from a respected book. They might talk about love, enlightenment, selflessness, or the essence of being, but none of it comes from their own journey. They know about truth, but they have not lived in truth. They lean on the authority of outside voices, quoting philosophers, scientists, or saints to prove they are right. But this reliance is proof that they haven't touched truth with their own hands and heart. Borrowed wisdom often creates the illusion of progress, because when others admire their words, they assume they've reached a higher stage. But in reality, they're just running in circles inside the maze of language. It's like someone learning to swim only by reading books about swimming. They can explain all the techniques, the physics of water, even body mechanics. But if you push them into a pool, they will panic. There is no shame in this stage. It's part of the journey. But if we never admit our borrowed knowledge, if we mistake information for wisdom, we risk building a prison out of concepts and mistaking it for freedom. The second stage is reflective wisdom, a crucial turning point. It is no longer about absorbing everything from outside. It begins with meeting our own inner world. This is when people start to question what they believe. They no longer accept everything they hear or read, but unlike rebellion, reflection is quiet, deep, and persistent. At this stage, someone may still learn from books and teachers, but now a small pause appears before accepting new ideas. That pause, tiny as it is the seed of true wisdom. Instead of absorbing like a recorder, they begin asking, is this true? Does this match my own experience? Who inside me is believing this, and why? This shift often brings inner conflict because it means facing the possibility that lifelong beliefs, even those tied to identity, family, or tradition, might only be shells, not truth itself. Reflective wisdom doesn't create comfort. It creates necessary discomfort. It cracks the shell of the ego. It forces us to see we may be clever, but we are also capable of self-deception. In this stage, honesty begins to replace blind belief. It doesn't give us all the answers, but it awakens an inner sincerity, the first spark of freedom. The third stage is inner wisdom, where knowledge, reflection, and lived experience begin to crystallize into a deeper understanding that no longer depends on words. In the first two stages, we either leaned on outside authority or wrestled with endless reflection. But at this stage, something shifts. What we once heard, read, or doubted has either fallen away or been tested in the fire of real life. People here no longer rush to share what they know, not because they lack words, but because they understand that some truths cannot be spoken. Every hardship, every loss, every act of letting go has left behind a layer of stillness. From that stillness, a new kind of wisdom is born, not intellectual, but embodied. This wisdom does not shine like flashy words. It carries a quiet weight, not the weight of authority or degrees, but the weight of presence, being fully alive in each moment. A person with inner wisdom isn't easily swayed by praise or criticism, by arguments of right and wrong, or by the glitter of knowledge. They look at someone not through titles or language, but through the quality of their life. Are they truly living what they speak, or just performing a role? They can instantly sense the difference between truth and imitation, not through argument, but through a subtle clarity of the heart. They hear what lies behind words. They see what was never spoken, because they themselves have walked through pain, through loss, through endings. They've seen how everything on the surface is just a temporary garment covering the real. Inner wisdom doesn't try to impress. It simply is. In their silence, things become clear. Sometimes, just one sentence from such a person can dissolve all the noise in the room. If borrowed wisdom is like light reflected from outside, and reflective wisdom is like light turned inward, then inner wisdom is a fire burning quietly within, warm enough to comfort, strong enough to burn away all pretense. The fourth stage is selfless wisdom, where perception is no longer distorted by the need to defend or prove oneself. This is not the wisdom of an individual trying to be right. It is the vision of a mind that has dropped the shadow of me. At this stage, people no longer see themselves as the center. They don't use knowledge to win arguments, to gain influence, or to polish their image. And this transformation doesn't come from force of will, trying to kill the ego, but from seeing deeply into the nature of the ego itself, an illusion created by memory, habit, and the need to exist. When this is seen clearly, the mind no longer has to protect the idea of me. From there, thoughts, feelings, and actions begin to carry a deeper honesty, because they are no longer driven by personal agendas. Selfless wisdom doesn't care about being right or wrong by society's standards. It only cares about what is real. Someone at this stage can listen to a heated debate without needing to intervene, not because they lack arguments, but because they see what's really happening beneath, the ego craving recognition, fighting to keep its identity alive. While others are still arguing, they already see the whole mechanism at work. That clarity brings a profound silence. At this stage, they no longer cling to any belief system. Whether religious, philosophical, or scientific, they may use those languages to communicate, but they no longer identify with them, because they've seen that every belief system is shaped by time, culture, and collective consciousness. And once you see that, nothing can be absolute. They live in a freedom that doesn't fight against anything, nor reject anything, because they are no longer trapped in the cage of what is considered right. This egoless wisdom comes with the natural silence, not the silence of suppression, but the silence of one who no longer needs to perform. Where others react, they simply observe. Where others analyze, they simply notice. Where others cling to arguments, they see the subtle play of cause and effect, not because they try to be spiritual, but because their mind has become clear as a mirror before reality. People around them often feel lighter. Even without a single word, their very presence shines silently. They no longer crave to be heard. But when they do speak, their words land with precision, cutting straight to the heart of what is hidden. Because there is no one left inside who needs protection. Their vision becomes free, without bias. This wisdom is like a still lake, not trying to reflect, yet everything approaching is mirrored perfectly. And it's precisely this effortless clarity that makes the seeing profound. The final stage is silent wisdom, the point where even the concept of wisdom dissolves. Here, there is no knower, and nothing left to be known. All effort to describe, define, or analyze becomes unnecessary, because reality doesn't need a name to exist. At this level, thought is no longer the driver. The mind is like open space, receiving everything, leaving no trace. They don't try to understand, because the very attempt to understand creates distance from life itself. When the self is quiet, truth speaks on its own, not through words, but through direct presence. Silent wisdom is not the opposite of ignorance, nor the peak of cleverness. It transcends both. It is like sunlight, shining without agenda, without asking to be acknowledged, simply present. At this stage, there is no longer someone who knows, but only knowing itself. No longer someone who sees, but pure seeing. Wisdom is not something to display, to argue, or to convince. True wisdom makes you live simpler, more honest, less explaining, and more present. If, after this journey, you can sit down, relax your mind, and listen to the sound of life within you, then maybe true wisdom has already touched you. Thank you for walking this path with eternal wisdom. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment, a like, and subscribe so we can keep walking together. May all beings everywhere find peace and freedom from suffering. Homage to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva.